Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Smudcast number 551, The Day Dragon Ball Died. And every time you hear a title like that on YouTube, there's always the gamer joke by a few YouTubers. It didn't die, it was murdered. Or some silly comment like that, like someone came by and got rid of it or erased it from existence or everyone stopped playing it. In this case, it's the very well-known Akira Toriyama, I don't know, brainchild, what would you call Dragon Ball, his most popular thing ever. The Dragon.
I would refer to it as that thing he created that will never die.
Yeah.
Even though everything else around it is dying.
Yeah, like when you think of,
and by around it I mean the cast and some of the artists
oh, for sure, yeah.
off.
Yeah, like when I think of Akira Toriyama, I think of Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball, and Chrono Trigger for that one brief moment in the 90s where he spun off and did a video game just as the art guy, not as anything else, which I thought was funny. So,
oh yeah, the art for those games are beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, he has a very good art style.
It's a very distinctive style. You can tell whenever you see the eyes, you see the crow's nest, you see the hair. It's like, yeah, it's Akira Toriyama, no question. So he's still popular. People still like his stuff. I don't know what he's up to these days. He's probably an old guy right now, chilling, not doing as much work as he used to. So
I believe he is still working on the manga. There is a manga for Dragon.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure he's involved. I don't know if he's the lead, but he probably comes up with story beats and hands them off to his artist, and he just does the rest. Or his writer.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see this video. We've got 16 minutes to go through. This came out just last month, or just a few days ago, rather. And it's got 300,000 views, so it's pretty popular from a big channel. That makes sense. Called Totally Not Mark. So I don't know who this guy is. Did we cover him before?
Yes. It was talking about Goku as a character. It's the same guy that said that Goku had a flat character arc.
Okay, interesting. My memory of Dragon Ball is mostly limited to the abridged video or videos on YouTube, which is hilarious. If you guys have not seen that, I recommend it. It's fun, it's silly, it's short. No, sorry. The individual episodes are relatively short to the actual episodes because they're cut up, but the actual series is huge because it goes over all of Dragon Ball Z pretty much. So, and I think a few movies as well, but it's just a fun watch. That's the great thing about it. You won't be bored. If you did watch Dragon Ball Z, you'll love it because it just pokes so much fun that actually happens in the show. So it's good. I recommend it. So anyway, here we go.
For parts of it, I do say you do need a cut down version.
Right.
Yeah. Just 5 episodes of screaming.
Well, the voice actors are really good. Like, I was really impressed.
They are good.
They did such an amazing job. The editing was very good. Some of their own jokes they put in there for the hell of it. So it's really well done. I was really impressed how they, like, obviously Goku's pretty dumb, but we know that already. But they just play with that a lot more, and they cut to the chase, which is what I appreciate. So, which gives them time to do more stuff, which is fun. Anyway, here we go. 16 minutes.
This is not the video you think it is. So whatever you're doing with that dislike button right now, chill out, because if the comment section under this video or the Twitter mentions I've received for this video might suggest, this is far more complicated than the title alone suggests. And I agree. Dragon Ball across its almost 40 years of publication and or release has seen enormous success, revolutionizing the industry and influencing the hearts and minds of multiple generations across its 4 separate decades. Its most recent films have done tremendously well in the box office and to this day retains a massive fan base the likes of which any IP would yearn to possess. But the story doesn't resonate with me the way it once did. While myself and many people still very much enjoy the...
So that could be for many reasons. The story telling in general is not as high quality. The story plots have run out, or they've run their course and they just keep making more plots. They're not as interesting. Or you just grew out of it. You just said, hey, I'm not into Akira Toriyama after 10, 20, 30 years. So there's lots of reasons why you don't watch a show as much. And honestly, shows that go on too long, you could tell they've run their course in some cases. So it depends. Depends what you like and how consistent the story is and whether you're just tired of the same old stuff. Like some people don't like One Piece because it's the same old stuff. It's the same stories. They're dramatic. You like the characters still, but they haven't changed much. They haven't grown much. But in some cases they do. So One Piece is one of those great examples because there's 1,000 or so episodes or manga to read, and they just keep going and going, and things get zanier and more detailed. So there's lots of reasons to not like a show anymore.
Story for what it is these days, there's something fundamentally different about this story I love and grew up with. And I'm not the only one that feels this way, so what happened? Well, first of all, I want to say that this video is not trying to point out that Dragon Ball Super or any part of the modern Dragon Ball material is necessarily bad. And on the flip side, this video isn't suggesting that older fans are stuck in the past either. Gatekeeping sucks, and this video exists in an attempt to explain why there's a large population of people yearning for what was, rather than discredit those who enjoy it as it is.
So gatekeeping sucks, and Dragon Ball's not as good as it used to be? Is that what he's saying?
I believe so.
Interesting. Usually,
if I can remember the thing of like Dragon Ball and all that, the vast majority of things that are happening has been quite popular with the fan base. Stuff like the Dragon Ball Z Fighters, I believe it's called.
Yes, Fighters.
That fighting game was really popular. Then there was the Xenoverse games, Xenoblade, which were also extremely popular. So people in the fan base are pretty happy. Just there's some issues with Super, which is a little tismy, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah, when we refer to gatekeeping, we're referring to maintaining the quality of the lore and making sure that it's consistent with the theme, the premise of the original story, and wherever it takes, as opposed to, hey, let's just put things on their head and switch everything around, and now we have Old Man Luke, and he's no longer the Luke we know for whatever reason. Like, that's stuff that we want to avoid. So for him to say, gatekeeping sucks, but I don't like the new Dragon Ball as much as I used to, it's like, oh, that's might explain some things for you, sir. Anyway.
Yeah, for me, personally, there are some shows and stuff I used to watch when I was a bit younger, which I just can't anymore, or games I played when I was younger, what I just can't. I think this is what this guy has also went through, where basically, like, I used to play a lot of sandbox games, but nowadays, like, I cannot just play it for any period of time.
Right.
So I think it's just that is the issue having.
Right. I think a lot of people are growing up when they would come home from school or come home from work or what have you. They would, eat and watch 30 minutes of Dragon Ball, and that was pretty normal.
Yeah.
Back in my days, it was Sailor Moon because that came on the same amount of time when kids came home from school. So that's just what happened, and you enjoyed it. You had a meal, you got washed up, and you did your homework or whatever. That was a routine, and there were just so much content of Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and Yu Yu Hakusho and all kinds of other manga and anime out there. So that's just what we got. And yes, you can grow out of that, but it really comes down to, is it still worth watching? Is it still worth playing? Is it still worth talking about? Okay. Joe Crazy, thanks for the 5. DB Abridged didn't go over all of Z. They canceled it before doing the Boo saga. Yes, you're right. And I did notice that. Yeah.
I think part of that had to do with that some of the guys from Team 4-Star actually did something for like the early Boo saga and Kai. But there was some kind of like drama for one reason or another, and that their work on that segment got cut out.
Yeah, either that or they just didn't organize themselves, because it takes a long time to make those episodes, but there's so many of them. Like they really put years and years of work into that. So
yes,
yeah,
it's amazing that they did what they did, because it takes about 2 days to watch them all, unless you have like, nothing happening on a weekend. You're just like, okay, I'm going to spend good 15 hours just watching this thing. So Yeah, I did not see Boo at all. Anyway.
Some people would say that's for the better, and others would say it was for the worse.
Oh, yeah.
You missed out.
It,
The Boo Saga is a bit more divisive than you would think.
yeah, I think once they get past Cell, it's like, okay, that was pretty funny, the way that they wrote it. And
Because the way the way it's at least shown is like that's pretty much the passing of the torch from Goku to Gohan.
yeah.
But and then it's like people like some people are just like once Goku comes back like late in the Buu Saga, I'm just like they just like that's where some people get cut off. I'm just like it's still worth a watch.
Right. It's kind of a weird ending for the end of the Cell arc where Goku decides not to come back. You're like, okay, fair enough. That makes logical sense, but you still miss Goku doing whatever. But then it's a whole time travel plot, which is kind of cool. Which
not that much, honestly.
It resolves itself as a result because Trunks came back in time and changed things. As a result, he didn't realize what that would do and how Cell became Cell. Which
it would Cell's whole plan was from what I was able to grasp of it. That's like dependent on a certain time loop that his own existence caused.
Right.
But that was resolved rather early in the saga.
Yeah.
Once Cell became acclimated to the present, that's where everything else that came after kicked in.
Yes, and that I thought was actually rather clever. It wasn't super smart, but as far as time travel goes, they didn't go crazy. They didn't go crazy with the time travel concept. They just went, oh, this is a problem that Trunks created, and he has to deal with it himself and how to get it working.
Well, not willingly though, because Cell. What happened was Cell killed him and jacked the time machine from him,
right.
And that's how he's in the present.
Right.
Because Trunks was only there to save Goku from the heart virus, so that he was ready to fight 17 and 18 when they came about.
Right, and that was the big problem. And then they encountered two other androids, which aren't 17 and 18.
Yeah, 19, Android 19 and Dr. Zero.
Yeah. All right, cool.
And so, at the forefront of this video, I ask for your time, your patience, and your understanding as I explore and examine the series we all love to try and pinpoint the exact day Dragon Ball died for so many.
ビーデルさんの髪の毛だけど、もっと短くした方がいいと思うよ。
So, what
That's
does
your
it mean
intro?
when a show dies? This hyperbolic title is on the top of many videos, a lot of them quite antagonistic and many of them analytical, but they're all interested in one thing, pinpointing where a series made a change, one big enough to fracture an audience.
Simpsons did it! Simpsons did it!
The Simpsons is a very popular and uncontroversial example of this, referred to by the community as the zombification of The Simpsons. Following a massive exodus of the original writing staff during season 6, the show itself gradually changed from a counterculture critique of the status quo to eventually, and ironically, becoming the very thing it was a parody of. And it's not just The Simpsons either. Plenty of other series across the decades have fallen to this very common phenomenon. Shows like The US Office, Family Guy, Game of Thrones, and Community, for many individuals, featured a change in approach due to divisive creative decisions, a transfer of creative power, fan fatigue, and sometimes cast exodus. And as inflammatory as it might sound to liken Dragon Ball to some of these more extreme examples, the main reason I chose this video format in the first place wasn't simply to point out that I think this show is dead, but to speak about a very specific aspect that no other series I could find offers.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting to point out that any number of those changes could cause a single audience member to go, I don't like the show anymore, because that was the reason they watched it, or it doesn't have the same quality, or it's just not the same as you remember it. And you could look at any show that goes on for more than a few years that goes, oh yeah, this is no longer NCIS to me, this is no longer Sailor Moon to me, this is no longer Supernatural to me, it went too far, it got stale. There's all kinds of reasons not to like something. And it's usually about writing. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. But you can blame anything. Production value, filler, getting a new producer. There's all kinds of things that could change that vibe that you hope you were getting from the thing you always wanted. So, not uncommon. All right, here's Vladimir Dragunov again. Hey, when did Dragon Ball die with GT? Next video.
He's gonna get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
And you'd be surprised what he's actually gonna say that as when the series died.
All right. This picture right here reminds me so much of Chrono Trigger. It's just, oh.
Well, it's just Toriyama's art style.
I know.
Put simply, I believe there is a specific day in which Dragon Ball as it was once known died, despite its long-staying success. Imagine, if you will, a show like The Simpsons changing dramatically but still remaining critically successful within its existing fanbase. Well, that's Dragon Ball. And so I want to tackle this.
Okay, so he's talking about the critical fans who know Dragon Ball more than the average fans and go, okay, right there where things are no longer what we think it should be or what we're used to. That's about it.
In two sections. The first being, when did Dragon Ball die? And the second, why did it die? So, let's start by asking the first question. When did Dragon Ball die? Change isn't something that's new to Dragon Ball. Foundational aspects of the story have changed time and again, even within the original pre-Dragon Ball Z section of the series, transforming itself from an episodic-style gag comic focused on adventure and comedy in the first arc. Eventually, it switches focus to battle and martial arts from the second onwards, elements the series would soon become world famous for. Within the next 100 or 200 chapters, the main character of Goku would change radically from a child of Earth to a man of the stars, moving on from his Earth-based skirmishes to increasingly devastating clashes with the likes of Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, and Majin Buu.
Wasn't he always known to be an alien, I thought?
No, that was at the start of Z that was introduced.
Right.
Well, he wasn't completely human because, monkey tail.
Right.
Yeah, that's because he was originally inspired, because Dragon Ball, at least early on, was inspired by Journey to the West.
Yes.
Goku being the analog for Sun Wukong.
Right. But they never defined him as a human from Dragon Ball, I don't think.
That was just kind of the implication because of the inspiration.
Yeah, and he was always the miracle child who was super powerful, and they were like, "Wow, look at this kid. We have no idea." That was it.
Yeah, he was a fighting prodigy even in the early days.
Yeah, and then they fleshed out who he is and why he's so strong. Oh, he's an alien. Okay, and there's other aliens. Oh, that's Z. Then Z comes in, and there's all these other aliens. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I don't see that as being a child of Earth. It's like, no, he's just a weird kid that's super powerful and has a nimbus and an extendable staff, and he was on a quest. That was it.
If he's referring to it as a child of Earth, more of he was originally human-ish, like he was more focused on Earth kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
He's going for, but
I would have to look at the manga to see if there was a specific scene or monologue or narration saying he was here from this part of the world. Like, okay, I don't remember that, so maybe it could be a retcon.
But they do make a point of the whole Child of Earth thing. I can see I can kind of see the point there, because even later in Dragon Ball Z, when he becomes a Super Saiyan, they make it a point in his speech, a Saiyan raised on Earth. It's like they hammer that home, even as late as that.
Yeah.
Also, I believe he's just making a Superman statement.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's fine.
But then again, you can argue Goku is pretty much the Japanese Superman, and no one would bat an eye because there is plenty of similarity.
Yep.
But that's as far as it goes, just similarity.
Each clash more fantastical than the last, they created what would ultimately become known as power creep. The idea of things having to get bigger and bigger to the point that narrative logic of power between characters became unmanageable. For many people, that's a sticking point and a reason they can't enjoy much of the material, even extending as far as the modern day content. For others, the line is different and more focused on narrative moments, and there are numerous spots where people might arbitrarily point to as a shark jumping point of no return for them. Anywhere from Goku's reveal as an alien to Dragon Ball GT in all of its craziness. And from there, naturally, there's the numerous continuations of the series in the modern era through the likes of Battle of Gods in 2013, and so on through to Dragon Ball Super's anime. Any one of these places can no doubt play host to a specific point in time where fans might consider it a definitive drop-off point in the series for them. Heck, I'm sure there are those those of you who enjoyed the beginning of Dragon Ball Super but fell off halfway through for your own independent reasons.
The beginning of Dragon Ball Super didn't even need to happen. There was no point in adapting those movies into the anime.
There were very small good things in there, but it was surrounded by a lot of trash.
And a lot of the good and the few and a little bits of good stuff that was in there, that was just to set up later stuff that was much more worth it.
Yes.
Would you consider Super like filler material, even though it's part of the canon?
First, in my personal opinion, the first two arcs, which are just readapting the first two Dragon Ball movies that we'd had in a long time, especially after Evolution. It's like the movies were fine on their own, and then they just decided to make the first two arcs of the anime just the movies again. And it was pointless.
Yeah, it wasn't very good when they did it. Basically, what you want to do for it is find a list of the episodes, go find the filler episodes you'll probably be listed as, and watch the movies. That's all you need to do for the beginning.
You really don't need the first two arcs of the anime. You can just watch the movies just fine and skip straight to, what was it, episode 26 or 27? Which is the Universe 6 arc.
Like that.
A little bit close to there, yeah. That's pretty much all you need.
Well, the good thing is there's not too much filler from what I can tell. If you go through the list of, like, we're talking like the originals from the 80s all the way to, I think it was, 2010 or 13. And, like, even the original...
Or what exactly?
Well, the original Dragon Ball. Like, I'm going back to the, 80s and the filler from the anime.
The original Dragon Ball started in 84, I do remember.
Right. Well, we got it much, I think, later than that.
The 2000s.
Well, no. The original Dragon Ball we got in the 90s, I thought.
We got Dragon Ball Z in the 90s.
No, not Z. I mean the original Dragon Ball, the manga, which got translated into or adapted into the anime. That was in the 90s.
I'm trying to say, it's like the American audience. The American audience got Dragon Ball Z first. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
We got Dragon Ball Z first in the 90s, Toonami and all that. And then once they had Dragon Ball Z in the bag, that's when they decided to go back and dub the original Dragon Ball.
Okay, I'm just going through the list here. There's quite a few for Dragon Ball Z. The Otherworld Tournament, the Hijinks, the Adventure Inside Super Boo's body, the Aftermath of Kid Boo's demise.
Well, inside Super Boo, that's still part of the main story because at least Dragon Ball Z Kai retained that, so that's part of the sequence of events still.
Okay.
Except for that one stupid knocked out joke, I'm just like, eh.
All right, so a series as big and as large and adaptable as Dragon Ball still has filler, which is kind of funny. So.
Yeah.
Well, no, duh.
Super has a lot less filler though. Weirdly.
Oh.
Well, Dragon Ball Z had a lot of filler, specifically in the Frieza saga, because that's when the anime had caught up to the manga. That's why it's like the whole scene of 5 minutes before the planet explodes, and it's almost an entire season on its own.
It's pretty long, Super, but yeah, there are a few episodes in succession that do have 5 or 6 episodes which are just filler. So
just the fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what people complain about, but they are there. So, but other than that, it's complete. Like the anime is pretty much complete.
Before we move on, Matthias tells me that Vuster wants to be on.
Oh, okay. Can we add him?
Does that who here of us has him as a friend?
Let me see.
Just check. I think you do, Smud, because he's been on before.
No, I don't got him unless he changed his name.
I think no wait. Oh, let me. Hey, shit. Oh, I have him.
All right.
Let me just pull him in.
Alrighty.
Hopefully, I can do it.
Okay.
All
right, we're gonna keep on going.
Yes.
These, however, are all narrative moments, though. Specific points that were a breaking point for people, but what I'd like to argue, and what I think is most critical in pinpointing the death of Dragon Ball is beyond that. It's external, and it's a very clear-cut change in the series. And that clear-cut change took place on the 23rd of May, 1995. On that day,
Really?
people across Japan flooded into their convenience stores and local Shonen Jump outlets to witness the conclusion to what was, at the time, the most successful manga of all time. Dragon Ball, chapter 519.
AKA the end of Z.
Ah.
Manga chapter 519 is the end of Z. And yeah, of course that's the ending of Toriyama's original story. I'm not surprised that he brought this up.
Okay, so Z was super popular, and as soon as it changed or ended, therefore, what happened? Like, did
Therefore, that's when the franchise died? No, I don't think so, because he himself was going to bring up later that it's not like the franchise didn't get more popular after the end of Z. It absolutely did.
yeah, but there has to be a quality argument where the creator gets changed, or the writer gets changed, or some art style, like something has to change to say that.
That is part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't actually start at the end of Z. It starts somewhat at the start of GT.
I'm saying that's what the video brings up as when the franchise died. That's what he's saying. That the end of Z, that the original manga chapter of the end of Z is when the franchise died. I'm just like, yeah, that's where the original story ended, but I wouldn't say that's where the franchise died.
Yeah, it's not exactly where it dies. It's just where it stops, I guess. That's the best.
That's where the original story ends. Of course, it had to have an ending at some point, at least back then.
Yeah. I mean, technically it was going to end at the Cell Saga, but basically they kept it going for a bit longer.
You've heard so many things of, it was going to end at Cell, it was going to end at Frieza. I'm just like, at this point, I really have to find what's true and what's not. Because, there is the thing of Cell Saga being the one where it was going to end because passing the torch to Gohan as protector of the Earth. I'll grant you that. But with a franchise as big as Dragon Ball, it's like, with the benefit of hindsight, I honestly didn't expect the series to stop after that. With the benefit of hindsight, of course.
Yeah, because the thing is that you wouldn't just allow something that was successful for so long just to magically end. Like, even if it was Toriyama himself, it was like other people, it was going to keep on going in some way. Like, no question about it. You wouldn't just leave literal multi-million-dollar, yen, products just out and about. You're going to be making games, you're going to want more products. So, it's going to happen. So, let's keep it going. Let's add on the concept of fusion. Let's add on the concept of, like, more absorbing the fusions as well.
The concept of Majin Buu in general, and the Cinderella reference that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. And Bibbidi Bobbidi. I just clocked that. Bibbidi Bobbidi.
Yeah. You just now caught that. Wow. I can't believe that. That was deliberate. It's like Bibbidi being the original wizard that created Majin Buu, Bobbidi, which is actually just a reincarnation of Bibbidi, not his son, like the dub says. And then Majin Buu himself, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense, I guess.
How clever.
Okay. Hey, I'll give Toriyama this. At least he made it work. It's like he made it work without anyone noticing immediately. It's like it took a little bit for you to realize it.
Yeah. I mean, with all the sayings and such, they're all like somewhat named by some sort of vegetable or something.
Just characters in general for the most part. It's like it's either some kind of pun or some kind of like play on words, or something as direct as Cinderella.
I think it's a cute little thing doing that.
Yeah, like the Briefs family. They're all named after underwear.
Oh.
Yes. The Frieza family, all based on the concept of cold and appliances related to it.
Then there's also like the species.
Cell is actually more of an in-universe thing because it's a literal descriptor of what he actually is.
Oh, yeah,
literally an amalgamation of the DNA of all of the main characters plus Frieza to create an entirely new being worthy of literally just worthy of killing Goku, because Cell is just one massive glorified revenge plot by the Red Ribbon Army, and it still failed.
I mean, I give them props for being that persistent, that they're being so long dead and still want to kill off this monkey.
Yes.
I mean, technically he's not even a monkey, he's a space alien. But space alien monkey, there you go.
All right.
Calro, go ahead and put that in stream memes if you haven't already.
I'm looking for a high quality one.
All right. So, is everyone in the watch togethers? We have some new members here.
I see the
I
watch
am.
together. I'm
All right.
on it.
Let's.
I just hope Wisp was okay because.
Maybe Whisp doesn't want to talk about Dragon Ball. It's fine. It's no big deal.
All right. Fair enough. I'm just saying.
Yeah, definitely put that in the stream meme. That's pretty good.
Yes.
I just did.
All right. Good stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
We are all in the watch together, I believe. So let's continue.
Yes. 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure many of you are scratching your heads right now at this choice. I mean, it's not like Dragon Ball doesn't become more popular after 1995. GT may not
It
have been
absolutely does.
hugely successful, but the franchise still goes on to gain worldwide acclaim. But it's after this point that I think the most considerable differences occur.
Yeah, GT is definitely a massive drop-off in terms of many of the things that made Dragon Ball what it was, but the silver lining to that is that it did still keep enough eyes on the franchise to keep it going.
Yeah, I want to say I think GT actually was still pretty popular.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was mostly after the fact that people were like, "Yeah, this clearly wasn't as good as Z."
But
I
it
think it
still
was
did
around-
get its fans. I'll give credit to it for that.
Yeah, I think it was like the biggest drop off was during the first arc of it. Where
I mean, this might be a hot take, but I think GT's better than Super.
That's a
I
whole other
really
debate.
don't like
That's-
Super.
That's a whole other debate we can do some other day.
you know,
But
That was
in
a
terms of-
debate.
That's
You know-
that's all other conversation we can have some other time. But the point is that GT still managed to keep eyes on the franchise enough to keep it going strong.
Right.
I would say.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument because, as I said before, any point of a very long-running series, you could just lose interest, or you could say, "Oh, I don't like that," and you just stop because.
I mean, one of the things that I think really helped it was the time it came out, Toonami was like just starting up, I think, right?
GT in Japan started in the early to mid 90s, I believe. For us, we got it in the 2000s, in the early 2000s because of Toonami. Yes. But that's already once they had Dragon Ball Z in the bag in terms of a full-blown audience and how many people it grabbed in the West.
that is true. Like, somewhat true. Like, when it came to over here in the UK, it was... it depends on how it is, because in the UK it was slightly different. We had it on Cartoon Network. Apparently, if all the blood and gore was still intact, so that threw me right off. But
You guys were lucky with that.
apparently, they have no censorship whatsoever. They just didn't give a shit.
Lucky.
Yeah. When we got moving to Toonami, that's where things got toned down a bit. Not like to the point that they literally removed blood and done very absurd coloring drawings over situations like... I think it was one example, which on Toonami as well, they streamed Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's basically a main villain creature what has, unironically, a dragon dick. Like, a literal dick that's a dragon.
What?
And this is Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm still talking about it. And the thing is that the way how they censored it, it's like he has a big giant cloth in between the dragon knob and his chest. So it's like he has a big cover strips over him that's hiding an inconspicuous boner. And I'm like, what? There's no situation where you can't hide this. It's like that kind of embarrassment when it comes to censorship. But I'm kind of going off different subject because there's still begun Dragon Ball Z censorship.
Right.
Dragon Ball Z censorship.
There are plenty of episodes in Dragon Ball Z which were filler or were just ridiculous that you sat there and you said, okay, are they really grunting for 2 episodes long? Just
That's just...
that's where the joke comes from, is from Dragon Ball Z. So it's kind of like, okay, you could turn your brain off and go, yeah, whatever, I'll just watch the next one after, I'll just skip ahead. But that's kind of where a lot of people go, oh yeah, this is Dragon Ball. This is what we expect.
No, you don't. Exactly, you don't skip ahead. They're powering up for 3 episodes, and then they do one punch the next episodes. That's how it was.
So much drama. They haven't moved an inch. Oh my god, it's so exciting. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway.
They're holding it apart.
Well, again, I already said it earlier. It's like, at least for the Frieza saga, you can forgive it because it had caught up to the manga at that point. So they were stalling for time on that one.
Oh boy, they were really stalling for time there, but I do get what you mean, though.
Yeah, it's like, but we in the West didn't know any better because it had already ended in Japan by the time America got it. So we just rolled with the punches.
And Dragon Ball. Another thing about it was Dragon Ball really extended that anime time. The planet's going to explode in 5 minutes. 3 episodes later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually one funny part. The first time Goku turned Super Saiyan 3, what took, I think, and actually took 5 to 6 minutes of him screaming and transforming, and the whole world like reacting to this, and it was a hype moment. They had hype music. I won't lie.
One of the best moments in all of pretty much, I would say, one of the highlights in all of animation history. I dare say.
Yeah, that's the time I would say the whole extended time thing is done right. Like, that's a really good build up to that moment.
Yeah,
and more specifically, the American dub version that we got. That's what really elevated that entire moment even further.
Yeah,
even further beyond.
Even now to this day, that music's being used for like dramatic moments and such. That's how influential.
Credit where it's due to Bruce Falconer and his team of music talent for bringing a lot of those iconic moments from Dragon Ball Z and elevating them with that score. Honestly.
Yep. On the flip side, the second time he transforms was when Boo's about to attack him. It took 0.2 seconds for him to transform into it.
Although, to be fair, you could just say that that's because he's already done it, and he's already tested it out when in the mortal world.
Right, but when we talk about transforming, this is an ongoing thing that all the Saiyans do. They get to a point where they nearly die and they get stronger, and that's a brand new transformation. Until you have like a dozen transformations, it's like, this is getting silly.
Well, the thing of being near death and getting stronger from it, the idea of the Zenkai boost, what I believe was also introduced in Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
Yep.
And it's to the point where in Frieza Saga, Vegeta exploited it for his own ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, deliberately.
Yeah, like he said, mate, shoot me right in the chest and try and kill me. And he knew that after he gets healed, he'll get his Zenkai boost. So that was like the moment where might as well just keep on doing that constantly.
Which I have heard at least a couple people bring that up over the years, but I'm just like, what would really be the point?
Another thing about I want to say decline is just so many abilities just get thrown out.
Actually, that is true.
For a long time, Kaioken was just forgotten about until pretty recently.
Well, then again, that's mainly because he had just traded it straight up for Super Saiyan, and then when it came time to push his limits even further,
but the other Z fighters could have learned it that weren't Saiyans.
I mean,
that would have helped them a lot.
Well, I mean, even back when Goku originally died and went to King Kai, I think it's because Goku was such a unique case that he was taught it, and only him, along with the Spirit Bomb.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, King Kai is saying that they got different training, but honestly, I think I could have trained them as well, taught them the Kaioken.
I won't deny that possibility, but from what I remember, it is partly because Goku was more of a special case because of everything he had done up to that point, and also because he knew the Guardian of the Earth as well, which helped him even more.
So that he has more potential.
He had known, aside from Piccolo, Goku was the one that knew Kami for longer than anyone else did.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So that you could argue that definitely gave him an edge in terms of everything he had to do to get back to Earth and save the day.
Mm-hmm. Just knowing the guy and such, that would be enough to make him more influenced to teach you a technique. And feel comfortable.
All right.
And all this is now for everyone in the chat. It's like, let's try to keep the GT versus Super arguments to a minimum. because that's not. First of all, it's not what we're here for.
That.
Well,
That'll
that's the
be
first.
for another day.
Well,
although I'm
let's
very
actually
curious.
hear what the YouTuber has to say about if whatever
No,
he talks about.
No, yeah, I was just
Sure.
saying that about Chad because they were going on because the Chad was going on about GT versus Super, and that's a whole other discussion.
They can do that in chat. They can do it in Discord. It's up to them. I'm not going to worry about that. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
let's keep going. Here's Legacy. I miss Mouth Laser. Mouth Laser is awesome. There's so many moves that it just doesn't make like. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? There's like a dozen.
I mean, hey, the current Broly can still do it.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
they're all cool. They're all interesting and weird.
And you can also bring up the whole thing of why doesn't everyone teach each other why doesn't everyone teach each other their moves? I'm just like, I mean, it's just whatever they want to write. Okay, that's the main reason.
True. I guess it's also a mix between if it's like any point to teach them that move, if it's like that good. Like, I guess the special beam cannon, for example, that requires your ass to stay in one place or not get hit for a very long time. So that only works as like a team move or like a very specific situation. So
Yeah, that is part of it.
Right. Like,
And then, well, on the flip side, there's something like the Destructo Disc, where it has been used every so often, even as late as the Tournament of Power by Goku.
Oh yeah, and then afterwards, Frieza has his own version. Vegeta can do it as well.
Well,
And
then
Vegeta can do it, but she's banging
Well, Frieza's had his own version since day one.
Oh yeah, Death Soul Shopping is cool.
But moving on from learning each other's moves or whatever, let's go back to the video finally.
all right.
Yeah.
Change external to the story, and one that I believe influences why people have such differences in experience and opinion online. And so,
Gosh.
this brings us to the most interesting part of the video. Why is this the point that Dragon Ball died for a large population of people?
Why?
Today's video is brought to you by our long
No.
feature
Fuck off, ass.
Escape.com.
Underwear.
Your
What?
balls
Oh,
will
bollocks.
thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Just bollocks in my face, jeez. That's also Dragon Balls, not actual balls.
As mentioned, any one of the series' changes from its tone to its
Yeah,
plot
fuck
to
that.
its art could have marked a legitimate dropping off point for many, but for me, I think Dragon Ball died the moment Akira Toriyama stepped away from the driving seat. And again, I know, that sounds crazy, right? Toriyama has played a role in the franchise for decades, whether it's little aspects like contributing designs or even as far as penning entire scripts for movies. He's never really gone anywhere, but in spite of that, the format of his involvement has changed dramatically. And I'd argue that there are repercussions here that affect that very aspect that drew millions of fans into Dragon Ball in the first place. The very aspect that brought the series worldwide acclaim. I am of course speaking of the series action.
Yes.
The box office, and to this day retains a massive fan base the likes of which
Ah!
any IP would
What
yearn
just
to have
happened in it?
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
encountered. And
Hold on.
No, not
Hold on.
the advertisement again.
Hold on.
What was that? Super Saiyan 10,000.
Oh, that might have been me. I was trying to turn that down because it was really loud on my end.
Turn down on your end.
The volume controls on the right.
Dragon Ball
There
is
you
famous
go.
for its grand, epic clashes of good versus evil, young versus old, alien versus human. And while those aspects are still present in the modern material, the action itself does not feel the same. I'm sure that's still a head scratcher for many of you, given the recent movies and TV anime have produced some of the finest looking action the series has ever seen. And again, I agree, but I think it's important to understand that I believe the action is simply different, rather than categorically better or worse. So, what is different about the action? In a nutshell, the battles lack a narrative through line, a sense of drama within the fight itself. During the original run of Dragon Ball in the 80s and 90s, Akira Toriyama was forced to fly by the seat of his pants as a writer, making up the story as he went along, sometimes week to week, based on the responses from his editor or audience. This had the unintentional benefit of injecting narrative twists and snappy pacing into each subsequent chapter that was released. And due to a large amount of the runtime of the series comprising itself of fighting, he had to find a way of weaving story beats and drama into the DNA of the fights themselves in order to progress the story along. Contrary to popular belief, Dragon Ball hasn't always been mindless fighting. It's always had a purpose with a compelling narrative through line that hooked us all in. Within those short chapters, Akira Toriyama would seamlessly blend narrative and action to both wow us and propel the story forward, resulting in many breathtaking moments where they would synergize and produce some of the most emotionally resonant action many of us have ever come across. Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 moment, Goku's Kaioken, heck, even just the basic Goku and Piccolo team up against Raditz. These are all the result of careful build-up, and the fights that follow them propel those plot points forwards within the action itself. If we then look forwards to the battles of Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super Broly, for example, we can see a very different format. Stories and films that again begin by being front-loaded heavily with narrative that ultimately takes a back seat once the action begins, and only resumes when it finally ends.
Okay, so this is the issue of drama, which arguably is a subjective reaction to whatever's going on the screen. Your concern for a character, your interest level. There's all these variables why you like a show. So he said, the second Transformer Super Saiyan, for example. That's one example that he really liked. It's like, okay, great. Why? Like, tell us why, and then compare that to another transformation, because there's all kinds of transformations in the show, and why that doesn't work. That's all he has to do.
He has been a separate video with the Goku one, for example. Because that did have build-up. Because Goku, the correct Gohan.
Right.
Oh, my correct. But rundown is that because he is naturally passive, he doesn't want to fight, and throughout his childhood being spawned, always being pushed into fighting, and the only time he ever had his moments was when he got angry, or when he got pushed into it. Like, basically when he thought Krillin was dead, he got mad and actually did some damage to Frieza. And with that moment, he actually kills Android 17, if I remember. Just stomped on his head like a pancake. And
Wait, Goku killed?
No, it was 9. Yeah, 17.
Yeah. 19
is Trucker Hat.
No, wait.
I gotta remember.
Wait, you mean Goku?
Oh, no, Gohan. Goku got his ass whooped by the tiny little...
Goku got his ass kicked by... at the end of the saga, okay.
Yeah, around the end, because basically it did kind of build up even since the start of Dragon Ball Z. How Gohan was one who was passive, doesn't want to fight, only fights when enraged or back into a corner. And
but that he had the potential to become one of the strongest of all of them.
Mm-hmm. And
that was always there.
Yeah, that was like always the thing, but it did have the build up. So when finally he turned Super Saiyan 2 and kind of surpassed his father,
right,
and that's kind of how it got shown. That's that example, anyway.
Yeah, and his power during that entire time when he's Super Saiyan 2 for the first time, his power is insane.
Like,
if you really look into it,
right? So
nothing.
It's the motivation, it's the plot, it's the reasoning behind why they're fighting, what causes them to change. And you could say, well, they had 1 year's worth of training under one day in the crazy door.
In the time chamber.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's all these things that could cause these changes, and we don't see that because it happens off screen. But we know why they're doing it. They want to stop.
No. In Dragon Ball Z, we do see some of that training. To be fair,
sure. And we learn about what their dynamic is because Trunks goes in with Vegeta, so it's his dad.
That one we don't see.
Right. It's Goku and his son. There's all these reasons why they do it, and we wait for Cell to. Not eat the world or whatever is waiting for a tournament to happen.
Yeah, he organized the Cell Games tournament specifically so that he could fight Goku, Gohan, and the rest.
Right.
And he specifically waited there the full 10 days for that reason, because he already had the power. It was just a matter of waiting to prove himself.
Right.
And basically, after Vegeta got pegged, basically, and so the Trunks went not a perfect Ascended Saiyan, but very bulky. And then when Trunks got beaten, Cell said, "You know what? Can you get stronger?" Trunks said, "Well, maybe." And after he said, "Okay, piss off, get stronger. I'm gonna make a tournament. Come back here, then we fight." So he wants to prove that he is the best. He wants basically that Saiyan blood, that Saiyan arrogance. That's probably what made him do this, and what I wanted to
It did. That's part of it because of how it was created and how it was required for him to absorb 17 and 18 to have that to pretty much jumpstart what would become his true power.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he was made.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's all based
while
on
he doesn't well,
it's all based on the reasonings why they're doing what they're doing, and he's not getting that from all the other future shows where there's transformations that aren't as meaningful, apparently. So fair enough.
Supposedly, yeah.
Kinda. With the newer ones, it's more like narrative has happened.
There is narrative reasoning for why everything is happening in a lot of this. It's just, I would say things are more, not to imply anything with this, but it's saying certain elements are more segregated from each other.
That's a good way to say it, basically. Yeah, because it's like
I mean, I think the Super Saiyan God transformation was done pretty all right.
oh,
That
yeah.
one had quite a bit of build up, but then they introduced Super Saiyan God 2 and whatever it is called now, because I know they changed it.
Well, that's just called Super Saiyan Blue for some bloody reason. Like,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just basically given to them off screen.
mhm.
True, but I mean, at least they keep it straightforward. It's just adding the power boost from Super Saiyan on top of God, and I'm just like, okay, I'm fine with that. Stupid name aside.
Oh yeah.
All right, here is Kelranis. Why'd you throw money at the screen? Fight! What's going on?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
I was trying to encourage these people to fight.
Oh, in this
Start throwing
chat.
money around.
Oh,
Like, and
Yes.
that's why I was saying it's like, no, let's leave that discussion for some other time. Come on.
yeah, guys. If you want to argue in the chat, go right ahead, or in the Discord, wherever you're comfortable. I don't mind. Just be nice to each other. Okay.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Just keep it civil.
All right. Here's Robert was here. Thank you, sir. Dragon Ball died the day the story took a backseat to the merchandise potential.
You know what?
You could make that point, but I'm just like, with what was coming out of the franchise up until Super, the franchise was at least doing fine enough, I would say,
I would
Also,
say
honest-
the
except until Evolution.
the illustrations of Toriyama, not just of the characters, but of like the cars, the capsule co, all the other buildings. They're all very cute. They're all very simple and easy to identify. That's like, oh, that's a Toriyama working too. Like, so he has that distinctive art style, and I don't know if that's directly or easy to translate to like figurines or statuettes. But
Another thing I noticed was that
that kind of does work. Like, I've got a good 6-7 right now. Got like a couple of Goku's, Vegetas and such. Actually got a little car as well that seems like it could be from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon's Quest, by the way how it looks. It's like you can tell.
What the car? The yellow car?
Yeah.
That's from it's probably from the driving episode in Dragon Ball Z.
That was
Which, by the way, which fun fact, they kept in the Kakarot game.
Really?
Yes. I haven't gotten there yet myself because I just picked up the game yesterday. I'm still, like, partway into the Saiyan Saga, but that is in there. I do remember.
That is actually cute. Just having that in there. Like, it has no business being in there. Even has no business being in the arc.
I mean, it's fan service, come on. But to go back to the videos, like, the whole thing with the art style, that's just how I would say it's timeless, how that Toriyama's art style ended up being. That there's a reason why it was used for Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest. It's because it's so distinctive.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's like actually iconic. Like if you can't see anything that can imitate it, really.
Absolutely.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's continue.
And there's a very good reason the modern material is like this, and I'd like to try and explain that by analysing a part of what many consider to be one of the weakest arcs in Toriyama's original run, the Buu arc. Goku, Vegeta, and
here we
Mr.
go.
Satan versus Kid Buu. This fight has so much happening, developing, twisting, and changing, all occurring on the fly as the gang try to formulate a plan for defeating Buu once and for all. And due to the frantic manner by which Toriyama wrote it, for those of you who haven't read it chapter by chapter, the drama is heightened as plans fall apart, new ones are formulated and built upon thereafter. We've got Vegeta's stalling for Goku to charge, Goku's charge not working, Vegeta's realization that Goku is better than him, and we've got Goku charging the Spirit Bomb. All of this and much more is contained squarely within one final battle, connecting things to the past and introducing vital pieces of the story as we progress through it. And due to effectively every 14 pages of manga offering up a new key element of the story, when it came time for the anime to be created using that material, that made for a series that felt compelling and kinetic. And this applies to almost every major fight in the original run. There are B-plots, tensions running in the background, whether it's waiting for Goku to arrive in the Saiyan arc, waiting for Namek to explode, waiting for Gohan to rise to the challenge, or in this case, waiting for a last-ditch Spirit Bomb to charge. It's a multifaceted approach to action that goes beyond simply punching one another for 30 minutes. This type of writing is seldom found in modern Dragon Ball material, and is ultimately a result of how Akira Toriyama contributes now. If we look at his scripts for Resurrection F, Broly, and even the recent Dragon Ball Super Superhero, they are immensely detailed in their build-up. Toriyama puts so much love and care into the character writing of those initial plot beats, but he very famously does not write the action. Through his own admission in interviews or by simply looking at the scripts sold themselves, we can see that he writes things like, and I quote, "And now a big battle occurs," with very vague descriptions of its contents.
I want to say base.
I mean, here,
but also not.
It's like a mix between, okay, they're gonna fight. Like, I'm gonna write this amazing stuff. I'm gonna develop the characters. I'm gonna develop the plot. I'm gonna make them compelling. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen in this big, massive fight here. I'm gonna finish writing, and then that's my day done.
Yeah,
that's how Toriyama rolls.
You can't actually. Well, you could, but you can't really have a writer describe every single punch and kick and maneuver and dodge and weave. Like, that would just be painless or painful and then the animator or whoever has to read this and go, okay, then I have to do this because he wrote a punch occurs and it connects and it doesn't. Like, that would take so long. So why not leave it to the animator to say, here's a fight scene, do what you want, at the end this has to happen. That would be fun.
Or even at specific points during the fight scene, Toriyama could say this happens at this point, or there's a conversation during the fight.
I was gonna say, it's like Toriyama doesn't contribute anything at all to the fighting. Even the video itself is gonna say, Toriyama does, for the sake of the narrative, does contribute key moments that have to occur for the sake of the flow of the story. And you can definitely notice which is which. The example I think here is going to be Resurrection F. There are some of the things that happen during the fights are specifically Toriyama writer's notes, and it doesn't ruin it in my opinion. It's like there can definitely be that like intermingling from time to time, but you gotta realize that there definitely was a change with how Dragon Ball was made in general after it came back.
Right.
That is true. So it's something I can't believe this is Toriyama about.
I would say one of the...
I want to say I'm partially just reminded of when you were speaking about this, of Tolkien's works, where he doesn't really go into the battle scenes and everything like that. Or a lot of the things where, if I can remember, we understand of the battle scenes and fights have been created by Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson, I think. Yep. And artists, because he doesn't really go into how the battles go. He just gives you a basic overview or some basic words on it. That's something I'm reminded of most writers probably would also leave that pretty vague as well.
Yeah, when you compare it to writing a manga or a comic book, and it's 22 to 30 pages long, depending on how big your pages are, you would say, okay, we're going to have a fight scene, and that'll last 8 pages, or it could last 20 pages, and in between that, you have your dialogue bubbles, but you have essentially the main points of what's happening. So it's not just like every punch and every kick. You don't have room for that. So to plan that out, because obviously they're pulling from the manga, which was made like decades ago, or rather in our case, it was made decades ago. They're just getting it from the 80s or the 90s for Dragon Ball Z, and they're going, okay, this happens on page 33, so we're going to do something like that. That's what they would probably do anyway, or they would pull from other fighting movies or manga. Like I know that Naruto pulled from Cowboy Bebop a lot. There's all kinds of other scenes from other anime, stealing from other anime, just because it's easier for animators. So long as we know why they're fighting, good. That's all we need. We need to know what's going on, have the animators have fun, do all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's great, which is cool, because when you have like Spike Spiegel and he does Jeet Kune Do, he actually does Jeet Kune Do. Like, it's like that's the right martial art. You got it. He's not doing kung fu. He's not doing wushu or whatever. No, he's actually doing Jeet Kune Do. So that's cool. I have nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. Just getting to the point of script writers will just leave that out because there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
Just a bit of an overview.
Kind of depends on what's writing, because there's also like this, even the similar stuff when writing scripts and stuff in games, because in the end, depending on if the creator specifically is doing it all solo, which is unfortunately so, but they can get good to them.
I kind of think one of the things that made Dragon Ball Action so good was just how good Toriyama was at paneling it.
That is true. Like, some of the panels look like they had a lot of emphasis on attacks or on body movement. Like, it is actually really good. There's even some other anime or even shows that intentionally copy Dragon Ball Z poses and panels and stuff. So it kind of shows that influence.
And I don't think the people who, the guy who took over for Super, and he's all doing the manga, so Toriyama's not even doing that anymore.
Right. So what they would do is they would use the manga frames as keyframes in the anime and just say, okay, this leads to this, leads to that, and maybe they do something different. It's up to them, and that's good. You give the freedom to the artist to do what they want. I think that's totally fine. I think the YouTubers talking about, well, there's not enough setup, or the setup is not to my liking because it's not as dramatic, because I liked Gohan as a kid, or whatever the reason may be. And that's what I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to say, oh, this scene with Gohan, and you guys described it because that's why we liked it, is he's fighting, was he fighting Cell at the time, or one of the androids, and he's only a kid. And even, I think Goku says, okay, you're up. You're my son. You're ready to go. And everyone's like, what? Why? You could kill him right now.
Don't forget, he also gives Cell a sense being.
Oh, yeah, that. Oh, my sweet Jesus.
Yeah, that was like, okay, Goku, what are you doing?
Just gave him a max revive because banana. Just literally.
Yeah, there's so many saves. Like, obviously, death is the big one. You come back from death because there's heaven now. Then the Dragon Balls can now revive you. The sensu beans are get out of jail. I mean, it's just so like, okay.
Death is an inconvenience, if at most, in Dragon Ball Z.
It's like I have a big box of beans in my pocket, and I'll just pull them out as I'm about to die. Like, oh, I'm back. Okay.
Yep. Like, the only thing that's actually scary in the Dragon Ball Z universe is getting sealed away or something. That's actually scary. Like the Mafuba thing, when you're stuck inside a little jar or something, that is more worrying than actually getting killed, because I know I can still walk about and such when I'm dead.
Yeah, that's what you see with, was it Frieza? I can't remember who comes back from the dead. And they
Frieza, Krillin... Basically everyone outside of
well, no, they're
everyone, actually everyone.
They're still dead, but they just left heaven or whatever, and they got the halo on their head, and they're still fighting.
Goku.
Just Goku.
They got the halo, or they're like a cloud or something.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm like, okay, what's the point?
It's like if you're a generic NPC person who has no screen time, then you are a cloud. Anyone else, they at least get a body. That's basically how it goes.
Yeah.
You get screen time, you get a body.
So when you have a story like that, you gotta be super careful with your narrative and how stuff works. But it's Dragon Ball. Everything is gonna get bigger and badder and more destructive. And so.
Yeah, I kind of saw they tried to up the stakes when they have Piccolo die at some point, or in a Fuse of Kami, so that way the Dragon Balls won't work for a while anyway, until they made him a new Kami, and now Dragon Ball back, of course.
Until they went back to Namek and got that small child, I forget his name.
Yeah, Dende, I think. From
Dende, yeah, that's it.
Yep. So basically, they kind of negated that issue, but it's kind of nice that they had the issue for that long. So there was stakes for a while. And plus, I guess Kid Buu literally, okay, I'm bored. What am I gonna do now? Blow up the earth. Boom, done. So yeah, I guess for a while there was stakes, but yeah, I guess that's like the general go-to when it comes to Dragon Ball Z villains. Okay, I'm losing. Okay, time to blow up the earth. Almost every major villain has either attempted to or successfully destroyed the planet, or
Wow.
threatened to destroy the planet when they're about to lose. Like,
Yeah.
Frieza, Cell, Buu, Cooler, Zamasu, Shenron, Broly, the other Broly, whoever the fuck that android is, because I know he'll probably destroy the world anyway. He's this roided out.
And the Trugger hat one.
Oh yes, him. He's fun.
19.
And 19 and 20 as well. Those ones, the old man and the pedo ass looking robot.
And the mime.
Oh jeez, creepy.
Which one was the
Oh.
one in the zoot suit?
And
The what?
The zoot suit. Those old like suits with the big shoulders.
that is
He had purple
Android
skin.
9.
Or him.
Oh,
him.
Oh yeah, that one. I think that was number 13 or 12. He was weirdly funny.
All right, I got a donation from Gingaman. I don't know why, but thank you, Gingaman, who was just on the panel about 10 minutes ago. In regards to the battle with Cell, it's a severe common misconception that Goku was able to defeat Cell based on the effectiveness of the warp Kamehameha, which was when that was in fact only a temporary measure, always meant for Gohan to be the one that beats Cell. Yeah, I know, but that's like he literally stopped the fight just so Gohan could go win for reasons. It's just okay.
Apparently, while I'm not 100% sure about this, it could be because Goku actually fought Cell first to let Gohan get an idea of how Cell fights.
Oh,
Because he can actually observe the fights. So when Goku lets Gohan have a go, even if he decides to heal Cell like a bloody mad person, Gohan at least has an idea of how Cell fights. That's what I think anyway. I can't confirm this because I need to watch the Japanese one. That's the real reason why.
well, I think the scene when Vegeta decides to let Cell evolve because he's beating the shit out of him, and you're like,
Fucking idiot.
so you're just as bad as Goku. He's like, oh no, you idiots.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
With his damn pride fetish.
Yeah, it's just this weird. I like to fight, but I'll let my enemy get stronger. Like what?
Exactly that. He is going to win. He is going to save the world and prove that he's stronger than Goku.
I don't
the
know if it's in a lot of American media, the whole trope of I want to fight you at your strongest.
Yeah, you have to be better than me so I can beat you and feel superior, but not to the point where I kill you or knock you out. I'm gonna do it again. You're like, what? Why? Just beat the guy. Just do it.
It's like he's about to win. He has him in the chokehold, and then just Cell says, then afterwards he just hears the word and says, "Pride, my pride. I have to. He has to do something stupid
Yeah.
just so he can stroke the ego just a little bit, and afterwards, boom. Oh, yeah, that's the android. The
Android 13 to 15.
Yep.
13, 14, 15.
The pimp, the one that looks like he should be in a tribe, and the trucker hat.
Oh, okay.
Those are the three. I think he did beat up Vegeta for a while though. The little pimp one.
Yeah, they were extremely powerful for like a few episodes, and then
They turned Super
Oh yeah,
Saiyan.
that's right. Android 19 is the one that looks like Kim,
He's going to.
the North Korean dictator.
Oh damn! I mean, we can't call him Winnie the Pooh now, so we have to call him Android 19.
okay. Let us continue.
Here's how Resurrection F's beloved group fight plays out on paper. Quote, an astounding battle begins. This scene is a major set piece. Of course, I just have to write the words, so it's pretty easy on my end. Sorry. It'll probably be rough on all of you animators, but please do your best. And that's it. He contributes some gags like Krillin and Jocko's banter, but that's all there is to it. He goes to touch more in depth for Goku vs. Frieza by requesting specifics like a beam struggle or a specific set piece, but that's as far as he goes these days when it comes to action. The rest is left up to the director and storyboard artist for the film to
Oh yeah, he's an older guy. Of course he's going to let the younger guys take the reins.
Yeah, and it's a bit different than just saying, refer to page 16 of the manga, because that's only goes so far to what the format...
No, I don't think there was any manga for this. This was the... No, this is Super in the movie Resurrection.
Oh, Super, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Was that was the manga done after the anime then?
I think it started around the same time, yeah.
Huh.
It can't. So what happened was Dragon Ball Z ended, and then a while later, Evolution got made. Toriyama hated it so much that they decided to make the movie.
I actually remember
Resurrection F brought it back, and then Super started.
Interesting.
So in a way, you sort of got a fake evolution for being so garbage that it kind of started the whole Dragon Ball renaissance, which obviously may be varying between quality, but at least it kind of felt good watching that again. Oh, I dare you lot at some point to have a bad movie night and sit down and watch Dragon Ball Evolution. I dare you lot to give that a go.
All right. Here is JS.
I saw it in cinema. No.
Really, you did? Oh, boy.
Oh, I did, yes.
Okay. Here's JS. Thanks, JS. Without Vegeta letting Cell power up, or without Goku letting Gohan step in the ring, Gohan would never unlock Super Saiyan level 2. Thus, the characters would never know that you can go beyond it. Thus, they would be woefully underprepared for Boo. Ah, that's a good point.
That is somewhat
And
true.
16 had to die for it.
Yeah, but basically, actually, I say most of the situations.
Android 16 is another person that never got wished back.
Because he couldn't, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, there was no organic part here. He was straight up just a robot.
Yeah,
Right.
17 and 18 are both organic. They're
17,
technically
18,
cyborgs.
and I believe Dr. Gero was also a cyborg, technically.
Yep, he somehow built himself. Like,
He made himself a new body.
yeah. Wait, did you think? Wait, how is he in hell then? Anyway,
He built himself a new body, and he put his brain in the... There was a brain case.
17 is based off of a real person, though, still. He's based off of Jiro's son.
16, yes.
16.
Except
Or 16, that's what I meant.
Died during an attack on the base, what Goku did.
Oh, so
When he was
Goku.
the Great Ape form.
So basically, he actually got killed way in Dragon Ball at some point.
I mean, they could have wished for him to come back and have the memories of 16.
It's a possibility, however, it was a very long time ago, and there's a limit on Dragon Balls. Like, they have a actual timeline
It's like a
on how
year.
long they can be dead. Yeah, like a year, basically.
I think it's a year. Wait, then again, how long has Frieza been dead and they wished his ass back for a tournament?
Good point.
Like,
That's also another question.
Yeah. Actually, did he get wished back or did he just get brought back? Because I remember that.
Well, he was cyborged, I think, with his dad in the movie.
Well, didn't Xeno bring him back?
No, I remember. Basically, he got given the deal from, what's his name? The big guy who basically sits in the chair and decides if you're going to hell or not. He basically, it was either him or the little witch who sits on the, Bubba or something. One of those two gave Frieza life, but for long enough to attend the tournament. And then it was Weiss who basically, after the tournament, just brought him back to life altogether. So that's my mistake there. That wasn't even Dragon Ball related. And that's one of the reasons why I remember Frieza was joining in the condition that he gets wished back with the Dragon Balls. I do remember that now.
Okay.
That's something that happened in Super.
Let's continue. We have 3 minutes left. Shouldn't take too long.
Oh, yes.
Up how these things flow together. And while the action can be astonishing, particularly in the case of Dragon Ball Super Broly, it's simply not their job to add narrative on top of this. Then of course you have the Dragon Ball Super anime series from 2015 to 2018, which was effectively a million other writers approaching and interpreting Toriyama's basic outline. And even then you have the complicated aspect of Toriyama not naturally writing the story as it comes to him, instead writing on prompts from producers. Bring future Trunks back. What about Broly? The authorial direction Toriyama once had in his weekly writing simply isn't a thing anymore. Even the Dragon Ball Super manga, in which Toriyama perhaps works the closest, having provided designs, corrections, plotlines, and general mentorship, still shows this phenomenon. The full extent of the writing is filtered through someone else based on incomplete notes. Take these points from the manga, for example. Unlike classic weekly chapter releases, Toyotaro with Dragon Ball Super's manga releases once per month. And within many of those chapters, we just get fighting. Not dramatic fighting, but just regular old fighting that, while many might find entertaining for justifiable reasons, are specifically different to the type of battle writing Akira Toriyama was forced to employ back in the day with the original series. Whether it be Moro, Granola, or even the Universe Survival arc, I found myself waiting for the 45 plus page chapters of fighting to conclude so we can get back to the progression of the story. When in reality, in the same way a mystery novel utilizes the mystery aspect of the genre to facilitate its narrative, so too should Dragon Ball utilize the battles and fighting that they employ to facilitate their stories, not stall it.
That's a weird, like, looking at the mystery genre and saying you need, there's right ways to do mystery genre. There's very, very wrong ways to do it. And he's just comparing, let's say, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes. Every scene should have a meaning towards the plot, whereas he thinks every fight scene should have meaning towards something meaningful to him. So the characters, their motivations, their goals. It could be anything, whatever he likes. It's obviously not what he likes anymore, or as much. So,
I think it's the case that I do agree that most situations you can kind of tell with the older Dragon Ball Z and maybe Dragon Ball that narrative was basically mixed in between the fight scenes, and the way how it was written kind of complemented that. And now and now, even in the manga, it does seem like, how should I say, not as integrated, and probably just more like it's maybe a bit of fighting or a bit of talking to set up for something else. Like, it's a lot more constant setup instead of like establishing like motivations or backstories. But again, I ain't got a clue what the fuck this new stuff in the manga is going on. Like that new version of Vegeta that lacks eyebrows and looks like he's about to flip someone over and do God knows what.
Well, there's also the issue of power creep, so that as you jump up levels, you just skip a few because you can. So the meaning behind getting the first Super Saiyan or the second Super Saiyan is not the same as the first time you see it, which is
it's not that much of a milestone.
It's no longer as a big deal. It's like anyone could do that. Yeah, there we go, boom, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's fair because we've seen it before. So that's the problem. Is that you have extra levels and levels of power because the enemies are so stronger, and then you fight gods, then you fight angels, and you're like, okay, and they're ridiculously powerful. So you have to keep the story going. So they have to compete. They have to get stronger. They have to train.
Yeah. That is basically, how should I say? I can call it an enemy power system because each enemy has like a different type of power system. And with Dragon Ball Z, it's the transformation. So the villain very strong or has some sort of exploit so they can't be killed easily. So they need to the players and the actual character get stronger to compensate, or there'll be a fusion that could make them temporarily as strong. Well, let's compare that to an enemy like Hunter x Hunter, where basically everyone's power system is based on Nen. Where Nen is like an energy that everyone has, and there's different types. Like there's some that are more physical, there's some that are more mental, and each one's power is slightly different. So no one is excessively stronger unless they have a stronger like spiritual energy, which can be improved by like concentration and training. Not like Dragon Ball Z training, like you can throw the planet at someone's ass or something, but more like the idea that if you understand your opponent's name, then you can learn how to counteract it. If someone has an advantage, you might have to send someone else to fight it. So it's like actual strategy compared to scream a bit louder or dye your hair. It's like that kind of thing. It's very different.
Yes, hair dye.
That is actually kind of a thing. Dragon Ball Z did have a bit of strategy to a lot of the fights, I think.
Yeah, Dragon
It
Ball
wasn't as prevalent as it would be in something like Hunter x Hunter, but there was a little bit there.
Yeah.
And I really
Yeah.
don't think it's in Super that much.
Yeah, fights were more tactical back then.
Yeah, like in the first arcs in Dragon Ball, like general fights, there was barely any like beam struggles, crazy like repetitive fights and repetitive moves.
Well, the original Dragon Ball was trying to be close enough to Journey to the West, though, because that was the inspiration.
Yeah, even like tournament arcs later on, there were still like specific fights. Like one of the best fights was Goku versus Tien. There was almost no like crazy movements, but more like very strategic attacks.
Yeah, they tried to have more. They tried to have slightly more grounded, down to earth martial arts, straight up.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't any of the crazy shit just yet. It's like we were nowhere near that yet.
yeah.
I mean, even in the era where we saw like beam struggles start, like Gal Gun versus Kamehameha,
Yeah.
there was still a little strategy there. Like
Mhm.
other attacks were used to weaken the beams, and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even as simple as Kaioken times 3 isn't enough. I have to risk pushing to times 4. Even something as minuscule as that. But that was still a more tactical element of the fighting, even that early in Dragon Ball Z.
Well, even in Z, the non-violent ones like what was it, Solar Flare? Like I saw the enemy started using that. You're like, oh, okay, it's a blinding technique, and everyone runs away. So everyone was using that. It was cool.
I'm not well. A lot of those secondary moves were not used as common. Cell used it because he had their DNA and was programmed with their moves. It made sense in that instance.
Actually, when you think about it, there's some characters who managed to compensate for the big power difference. Like in the earlier stages, like Krillin, for example. There's two occasions.
I mean, another usage of like non-combat powers used in combat was like instant transmissions used for dodging.
Yeah, which is what I brought up earlier when I had to dip out of the call for a little bit. That the whole idea of the warp Kamehameha
was basically a combination of the instant transmission and an attack at pure point blank range.
A non combat move used in combat, and to the point where a lot of the games later on, like more recently, started using it more. I think starting as early as the Tenkaichi games, in terms of the secondary material.
Yeah, the Tenkaichi games is where I started to see that used a lot. Which kind of
in full blown gameplay. Yes.
Yep. Also, this is more like offensive wise, but Krillin using Destructo Disc on two specific occasions. First against Nappa, where Krillin was noticed to be like 4 times weaker than Nappa. Extremely weak. Probably punch and his body will be gone. But Destructo Disc specifically would have took him out, beheaded him. Only reason why it didn't is because Vegeta told him, "Move, it's dangerous." And you saw that it chopped a mountain in half in one go, and it actually left a mark on his face. And another time was where it cut off Frieza's tail out of the blue.
Yes.
Where Krillin is infinitely weak.
In his second form, I do want to add it.
Oh yeah. And then afterwards he tried it on Cell, and it literally
but that's how the progression goes. It's like when it goes back to the villain dodging it, it's with someone that knows exactly what's coming.
Yeah, I guess
to the point where Cell even used it himself against Gohan, but because Gohan was Super Saiyan 2 at that point, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, He just shouted it away. I remember that.
No, not even shout it away. He sell through 2 and go
yeah.
on like caught them both with his arms and then just go away.
They just dissipated as well, isn't it?
He dissipated them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So
and then Buu Saga, you were gonna say?
Oh yeah, the Buu Saga. It was kind of different because the way how Buu's body is designed, he got immediately cut in half, and then he just stuck back together. And I give props for like being the only person who had the balls to actually try something.
Yeah, in the case of Buu Saga, it's like it did exactly what it was meant to do, but because Buu is a more magical entity that can regenerate from anything, almost anything, it literally did not matter.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, because at least he tried.
Yeah, that's the kind of like narrative progression with even if something as minor as a move like the Destructo Disc, there is that progression across the whole series. That's one of those details that you can really appreciate looking at it at it in the intended order.
What was the next transformation? I'm trying to remember. Was it number 4 where they lose part of their not their humanity but their rationality? They're sort of aggressive.
Super Saiyan 4. That was GT.
Yeah, he added that. He had to grow back his tail for that.
Yeah, they grow back the tail. They harness the power of the big monkey, the great ape, and it had already been established early in Dragon Ball Z, at least, that the great ape power was 10 times your power. So since Super Saiyan 4 follows in the sequence of the multipliers of power, it just pretty much it's 10 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3, which in itself was already hella powerful.
Mm-hmm. I refuse.
It still follows in the same progression of Super Saiyan that everything else led up to.
And then the other power multiplier that they were using was fusion.
That doesn't even have a multiplier; it just makes you super strong. That's it.
Really? I thought it combined the power of the users.
Of the two, that's true. But
it's not. That's technically not multiplication, but
it's not technically just twice the power of the two individuals separately. It's an immense power boost. But what I do remember from the Super Saiyan transformations, Super Saiyan 1 is 50, Super Saiyan 2 is 2, Super Saiyan 3 is 4, and 4 is 10. That's the multipliers.
Okay, see, this is why when it got to Super, I didn't mind when they stopped talking about power levels so much. It started to get way too confused.
They stopped talking about power levels early in Dragon Ball Z because the Scouters were the power level stuff with the Scouters was only meant as a joke, and the joke was don't underestimate your opponent.
That is true, yeah, and also
that's literally the whole point.
Yeah,
I mean, but around the end of the Vegeta fight, everyone kind of realized, these power levels are kind of useless.
That was the series cutting off that gimmick because it had run its course.
Mm-hmm. I kind of did like how Vegeta, after getting his ass whooped, did learn how to conceal his power, so you'd seem weaker to like Jason and such when he got. Like,
he eventually did, but early on, it would have very much been needed.
Yep, that's true.
But you can still see that progression in terms of like certain abilities and certain gimmicks. Some get cut off, others are not forgotten about. They're still like in the background in terms of how everything works, like the multipliers and stuff. That's still there, but it's just not part. It's not part of like the surface of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not pointed out anymore. It's there. It's just how it works. That's it.
Fair enough.
Okay, we've got 2 more minutes. We're almost done. Hopefully it won't be another advertisement, but who knows?
Yeah.
And typically, I think that's why these modern Dragon Ball movies like Resurrection F, Dragon Ball Super Broly, and Dragon Ball Super Superhero feel, and quite frankly are, front-loaded with so much plot before the rest of the narrative devolves into fighting. And not dramatic fighting either, simply a battle that exists due to build-up but does not evolve as it once would. Which, let me be clear here, is totally fine to an extent. Sometimes we just need a character to throw another character into a mountain. Sometimes we need that, and far be it for me to denounce the value of that one moment Goku had grinding on a blast from Kefla during the Tournament of Power.
Okay, that was
I wouldn't say the fight with Broly wasn't dramatic because the way it was presented, this was like I would put it for the sake of my point here, I would put it in somewhat of a meta context, because this is a character that a lot of people really grew attached to, even if before this point he was non-canon.
Actually, both characters, Gogeta and Broly, like both.
Gogeta definitely got a lot of attention, just like Broly did with the games and all the secondary stuff. But I mean, in terms of Broly specifically, like Gogeta does like the whole fusions thing, but Broly, there was just that aspect, that unique aspect about the character that a lot of us hoped would eventually be reworked into the main continuity, and it was. I would say, in a meta sense, it's dramatic in the sense that, yeah, the character's finally canon, but finally part of the main story, but are they actually going to kill him or not? And you're asking, and at least I was asking myself that, are they going to keep him, or are they going to kill him? And they kept him. I'm just like, okay.
Another thing about that movie was it actually did a lot of humanization for Broly too.
Yes,
that is actually true. It's not that,
and a lot of this work. No, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's basically the other Broly was basically Goku was crying. Now I'm angry. I'm going to fucking kill everybody. That was
the original Broly had that cool aspect to him. He was a very unique character, but he was just a killing machine. Not much more than that.
Mm-hmm. He's like a force of nature, basically.
A literal force, an abomination of nature. Yes, But here, in this case, Toriyama was able to give the character give it a fair shot under his own pen, and actually add that extra element that at least I feel was missing from the character, which was, like you said, the humanization of the character, so that it would feel more complete. And the fact that they did keep him at the end of that movie, there is plenty of potential for him going forward.
There's like three things due to this. The first thing is, as you said, they humanized the character to an amazing way. The third thing is that, second, maths. Anyway, the second thing is that they basically, how should I say, gave justification to adding more products, could add more backstory, more side stories relating to Broly for, because it could be Broly and the two damn space aliens. That could be a whole lot spin-off.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they gave us two more characters that, one, Broly could care about, and two, the audience could care about.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so either the YouTuber is splitting hairs just because he likes the original fights more because they worked more with him, or he simply wants the newer fights to be more involved with the narrative as opposed to just being straight up fights. So the plot should be integrated with the fighting as opposed to what we get, I guess.
Which I would say
they disagree with him.
I don't necessarily disagree with this video either, I would say.
Yeah, me neither. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with saying that the old fights were better and that the new fights should try to be more like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, you're not exactly trying to offer a solution either.
It's basically more like an opinion that's not too bad, not too good. It's not like taking a serious take. It's more like, I prefer this, but this isn't bad either. I think that's what his video is.
He's stating his opinion, but he's not going out of his way to expand on it. That's the thing.
He kind of does, but in multiple other videos. This is more like, this seems like something you would watch after you've seen his other stuff. Because I used to watch this guy quite a bit regarding characters. That's what I'm kind of familiar.
Yeah,
also,
and
another thing I would kind of note is probably missing from the newer DBZ is kind of a touch on how Toriyama's art style used to looks, but a lot of the newer stuff doesn't have as much detail as what he would put into things.
I agree.
It
still works. The art style still holds up. In the new stuff, it's just not as intricate. You are right.
It might. I don't think it's entirely because of it, but I think part of it is the change from it being hand drawn to being computer.
Yeah, you can kind of see with some animations compared to someone that did it on the computer and did small little movements compared to someone who got a piece of paper.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go on. I was going to say basically this.
Yeah, that's. But I was gonna say, it's like, in terms of the transition to the new stuff, like, look no further than the first two arcs of the anime, which are the movies, and it's the fact that the production for the anime early on for the original airings was to my knowledge, I believe disorganized, and there were too many newbies. I believe that was the issue, that weren't accustomed to doing anything in the iconic Toriyama style that we all knew, and the production was just a mess for the early anime. But to their credit, they did go back and actually fix those early episodes that were fucked up.
Yeah.
Credit where it's due.
There's actually a video regarding this, like the animations.
I mean, a lot of the things that I still see is like a lot of the clothes that Toriyama drew. There was a lot of wrinkling and a lot of like natural bending to it.
Yes,
and you don't really see that anymore in the newer art style.
Not as much with the original characters, and definitely with new characters. They are way more, how should I say, more streamlined, or when character like the two lesbian Super Saiyans. There's no doubt they're definitely lesbian, but basically those two have the most like generic outfits known to man.
I wouldn't say they're lesbian, but there's pretty much no evidence for that.
Oh, they stink of lesbian. There's no way they are.
It's the two femoid creatures. Of course, the entire fan base is going to say they're lesbian.
That's the fan base.
Then you have the rest.
The rest. No. There's three loads of fan bases. The fan base that are after the two lesbian Super Saiyans. The fan base that are after the character in the game, Android 21. Both human or flipping margin form. And there's the ones who I've only recently learnt want to be completely destroyed by the new Broly. And I'm like, I didn't even know that exists, but now I know that exists. I didn't need to know that exists, but yeah, apparently that's just a thing that exists. The ones that want to be picked by Broly.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. Each their own.
Alrighty. Almost done here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Moments like those are memorable and awesome, and Dragon Ball should not do without them. The staff that creates these moments from vague notes deserve all the praise in the world, and I truly get a lot of joy out of them. But this isn't Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball anymore, and that action isn't entwined in the narrative as it once was. The format has changed, and thus the feelings we get during those battles, the tension and the drama, are significantly different. It's now Dragon Ball by committee, a product that still has a lot of value, and what I'm sure we've all found moments that speak to us. But it's those differences that create, for many of us, a crushing realization that things aren't going to be the same again. And that for us, May 23rd, 1995, was the day Dragon Ball died.
That's still the point that kind of like irks me a little bit. It's like the series died when it ended. Okay, of course that's just par for the course.
So,
if it weren't for the fact that Dragon Ball became so big, yeah, it would have ended right there. But no.
Yeah, he's just lamenting. Dragon Ball Z is my favorite. It's not the same as it used to be. It's like, yep, okay, fair enough. That's your taste.
Yeah, I feel that.
It's like he doesn't hate it. He doesn't even hate the new stuff. He doesn't. I don't think he doesn't even like that this stuff is different. It's more like it's different. That is the video.
Yeah.
It's just different. The fact that he says it's died makes it infinitely more interesting to watch.
Here we go. All right, let's get into the stream memes. We've got a whole bunch, I think. What are we looking at? This is from Legacy. Okay. Naruto is the best anime, but can he beat Goku though?
No, he can't.
Probably
in
not.
Fortnite, he can.
Yeah, I would guess no.
Yeah, he's got a gun apparently now, so yeah, he probably can.
Oh.
There's a chance now.
Naruto has a gun.
No.
Gustavo Fring from Breaking Bad could beat Goku. What?
No.
Huh?
How does
It's these memes of insert character can defeat him when
Yeah, that's the classic one.
Okay. Interesting. Here is Kamehameha and
it's Legacy's OC.
Okay.
I believe it's Captain Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the Food Association. Very large or very long.
Character name origins.
Yeah.
I forgot all of Piccolo's, like all the main Namekians, like
The Namekians, not just some of the Namekians, but also Demon King Piccolo's minions.
Oh.
Like based on wood ornaments, isn't it?
What is Mr.
on-
Popo?
yeah.
I can't. What?
Mr. Popo, it says I named him just because it sounds comfortable. Akira Toriyama.
I mean,
Bruh.
that kind of fits Popo as a character because he's meant to be kind of like a big nice guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he beat the shit out of Goku in the start, though, I won't lie.
In the abridged version, he's pretty much the mastermind behind everything, and everyone listens to him. And if you
All these squares make a circle.
you cross him,
That's another thing I've noticed about Super is that it kind of feels like they've incorporated some of the things that were just jokes in the abridged series, like Goku not knowing anything about romance.
And also, Yamcha.
Never having kissed Chi-Chi. That was so fucking weird.
It is weird, but it's also Goku.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was
Also-
already pretty dumb. He didn't know what marriage was.
He thought it was food.
Yeah.
Mud, play it.
I mean, you
Well,
end up
he-
eating at some point.
Well, I
There's
can't.
also regarding Yamcha, who basically, I think after he got blown up by a Cyberman, and he had the iconic pose. Like first, a lot of anime started doing it, and then I think he was playing baseball in Dragon Ball Super at some point, and then
Yeah,
managed
he
to do
did.
a save, and he did the same iconic pose. And
Yeah.
there, it's just like, how should I say, Super is like a very messy send off to Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball series, because
Yeah.
it has the occasional reference, it has like callbacks, like it had brought back Kaioken when it didn't really need to, but
hell, the entire premise of Superhero is directly as a result of stuff from Dragon Ball.
that is true. Like the Red Ribbon Army literally cannot die. Apparently,
This man
like,
isn't black!
seriously, it's gonna be a USP that has Dr. Gero in there. And he's saying, "I'm gonna kill
Not be
Goku."
surprised.
Has Super incorporated the Red Ribbon Army at all?
I still
Oh,
like.
that.
I still like when Abridged implied that maybe a 16 is actually Jiro's son. When Abridged did that, I'm just like, oh shit.
Here we have.
bri-
What is that? Piccolo.
Don't shoot, he's not black. It's
just
a reference to
Oh, yeah,
Super, how a lot of weird things happen and Goku Black exists now.
yeah.
He's evil Goku.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the record, he's not literally black.
So here's.
Yeah.
He is.
It's just name. It's just a name.
Yeah, it's just a name.
So this is
Yeah.
Kamen Rider, I believe, and
Kamen Rider, yeah.
hitting Piccolo on the back with his bike.
Basically going through him. The meme is whatever character you got, it's going to burst through Piccolo for no apparent reason.
Oh.
There's one person.
When it's only happened like
There's-
once.
There is a
Yeah.
very famous image of Ralph doing it as well.
My favorite version of that meme is the one with the Donald Duck
I
going through it.
knew you was gonna say that.
And even then, this is the original Piccolo. This is Demon King Piccolo from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it was Demon King who basically got beaten by Goku when he was a child.
Yeah, the
Then
long story short, the Guardian of the Earth, Kami, it's like because of the evil in his heart, he couldn't become Guardian. So he split that off and it became Demon King Piccolo. That's what happened. That's what happened. And then because Piccolo and Demon King Piccolo and Kami were still tied together, if one died, the other did too. But the Dragon Balls were tied to Kami, so the Demon King here spat out an egg, and that's how we got the current Piccolo.
I just realized that Tien could spank 4 asses with those hands, like Jesus Christ, and he never did it again. Like the multi-arm thing.
Doesn't he like only appear like once after this?
Mm-hmm.
What, Tien?
Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
he's just the Earth guy who knows martial arts magic, but he's not very strong.
Tien's the one that stalls second form Cell before Goku comes in and saves his ass and meets Cell for the first time.
Also,
Yeah.
isn't Tien a mutant? Not
No, he does pop up
woman.
one more time in the Boo saga. He gets kicked once by Boo and gets knocked out. Just
Yeah.
no half
Yeah.
of Boo. I forgot about that.
And I'm just saying, Tien in the Cell Saga, Tien's the reason how Goku was able to meet Cell for the first time before he went perfect.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that is
he
true.
did the Kinko Ho attack.
Where
The-
all
the,
these
the tri-beam.
triangles make squares.
The tri-beam, yeah.
Yep.
Over
And then everything else is here is just pages from the manga.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's when
There's
Cell
one
is just
thing-
getting smashed into the ground by this silly attack.
Oh yeah. Tien literally took out the entire fucking ring with that attack. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
What the?
All right.
He was sick, that won't lie.
Yeah, that's it.
So I do recommend
Not-
checking out the abridged version. It's a faster watch of Dragon Ball Z. It's not the complete Dragon Ball Z episodes, but
It's just not Dragon Ball Z. It's a parody.
it is a parody. But if you watch the
It's
original,
funny. It does actually have some pretty serious and well done payoffs as well.
True. But if you want to watch actual original Dragon Ball Z, I would recommend Kai.
No, too much censorship.
Yes. No. Shush. There's an
I've heard there's a Kai edit of the original Dragon Ball Z that
yeah.
cuts down the time without doing all the censorship.
There is an uncensored version of Kai, by the way. You just gotta find it.
all right.
Fair enough. Also, I put up a link to a video that could be watched at some point. Basically, because-
Eventually, yes.
Yeah. Or run by the same person. I totally hope not Mark. Although he's talking specifically about Piccolo, it does talk a lot about regarding side characters and when you get, how should I say, turned into a side character to a jobber and how it keeps going downhill, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
If you remember, yep.
That's great. We were under 2 hours there, guys. Pretty good job. Got a lot of people jumping in the last minute. That's cool. Don't know why guys are sending money when you're in the stream, but I mean,
I told you that I had to take care of
fun.
something.
What can I
It's
say?
just
Man,
that
you've got a lot of simps.
It's just that I was still watching the stream on my phone. I felt like mentioning the whole thing with Cell.
okay, fair enough. Well, you guys can chat and argue in the Discord as much as you like. That's cool. I have not
Just
watched all of
Phil.
Dragon Ball, or I think the past 10 years I've missed Dragon Ball. I don't know what's new and cool, and if it's worthwhile or not. So, yeah, it's just not like it's not for me as it used to be. That's what I got from this video. Even though he still likes Dragon Ball as a whole, which is totally fair. That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys. That was our Monday Anime Day. Finally, we were on schedule. We actually did one. So thank you for, I think that was Gingaman, you recommended that video. So good stuff, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So always nice. In case, we have a day or a video that we can't agree on, we're just going to ask everyone directly in the chat on Discord, what do you want us to cover? Who can be on? And we'll bring you on. And provided you got a mic and we can hear you, we're good to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's all it takes, guys. So thank you so much for your time. I don't know what we're up to tomorrow. We might continue on with the voting or the one that I recommended. I don't know exactly which video we're covering. It's still a mystery to me. But we'll find out. Some people might be free up tomorrow. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you real soon. Have a great evening and have a good night. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Not everyone.
Bye.